Well, it is my pleasure at this session to introduce to you Ted Mulvill, whose subject today will be Seeds of Wisdom. From 1951 to 1975, Ted was a priest of the Roman Catholic Church, and for nearly 20 years he was Director of Catholic Education. Since 1976, he has been lecturing in management skills at the Adelaide College of TAFE. I originally met Ted on my first visit to Byzantium in 1982, and during my weeks in the presence of our Divine Master, I listened to many wonderful stories. Some of these stories were told by Ted, and I know this morning his seeds of wisdom will hold our attention as intently as did his stories of 9 years ago. So would you please welcome Ted Mulvill.
Thank you, Elvie, for your kind welcome, and salam to all the Say family present here. Just two things. My sister would love to have been here today. I was to bring her here, and this morning she had an epileptic turn and fell on her face and has a terribly bloodied nose, etc. So I just asked that you would pray for June today. I'm sure she's praying for me. And secondly, I think you should never be negative about yourself, but I think I must have branded some people on their bottoms in a past life, because just a week ago I got a very bad scalding burn on my bottom, and so I'm sitting on a donut up here, and if I look a little uncomfortable, that's the reason. So some karmic things happening. I thank you for your kind welcome, and my special greetings to Dr. Sam Sandweiss, because in 1983 we roomed together at Puttaparthi, and were privileged to share a personal interview with Sai Baba. And given, as Elvie said, my background as a Catholic priest, my ego is probably still rampant, and I feel a reluctance to preach to others as though I have all the answers to the mystery of existence. Indeed, I am mindful of what Baba has said. Jesus is worshipped, but his teachings are neglected. Sai is being worshipped, but his teachings are neglected. Everywhere, pomp, pageantry, hollow exhibitionism, and this is what he says: lectures, lectures, lectures. No activity, no love, no service. Heroes while lecturing, zeros while putting what is said into practice. So I ask Baba, as priests do before publicly reading the Gospel during Mass, to cleanse my heart and my lips, that I may worthily proclaim Sai's holy gospel, his good news. I have entitled my talk Seeds of Wisdom. The origin of this title springs from my long-time friendship with the now deceased John Howie, who was a former president of the Sai organisation in Adelaide. And for a period of, I think, nearly 8 years, John and I met nearly every Saturday morning, and we shared a kind of satsang together. And our reading and discussions ranged across a broad spectrum of philosophy and modern science, and the marriage of Eastern and Western religious thought. And I can truthfully report we made a very detailed study of Sai Baba and his teachings. And right from the start, John had no doubts that he was an avatar. Even before he had physically seen the divine form. Initially, I think my path, a bit like yours, Howard, was the path of a doubting Thomas. And it took me much reading and a number of visits to India to be truly convinced. And perhaps a year before his death, I urged John to put the fruit of his research into book form. And this resulted in the Seeds of Wisdom. And he, in fact, divided into 3 booklets, really: Sowing Seeds, Reaping Seeds, and Living Seeds. And on Sunday, the 11th of October, 1987, I presented the first book to Sai Baba, who, placing his hand on it, blessed it, and gave his permission to publish it. And it's a wonderful collection of quotes from Sai Baba in relation to various topics. And I intend to quote from Book 1, which is Sowing Seeds of Wisdom, this morning. There's been certain reasons why it hasn't yet been published, but I intend to take personal responsibility for this. I think I've been reneging on it. And if there's anybody present who would like a copy of this Seeds of Wisdom, you might go to the bookshop. I've left a pad there, and if you left your name, address and code number, when it is published, I'll make sure a copy is sent to you. I think it'll be an invaluable tool for discussion groups. So some of you involved in discussion groups, I think this would be very helpful. Perhaps to emphasize my zero status, at the same interview in 1987, I was privileged to be with my dear sister June and a group of fellow Australians. And because I had asked for the interview, I assumed a kind of leadership role. And when we were settled in the interview room, I offered the love of each one present to Sai, and then asked how we could help him in his mission. And he immediately corrected me. He said, "Not my mission, our mission." And that was good learning. Our mission, not my mission, our mission. And later, knowing my background in education, we were in the smaller interview room at Whitefield. He turned to me and he said, "What is education?" And, you know, Ted, with all his so-called learning, was felt a little loath to tell him what I thought it was. And so he immediately began to emphasize, you know, that education is for life and it's not just for making a living. And he went on and on and on like that, and I'm listening very intently to what he said. And when he'd finished, we left that small interview room and we went into the adjoining room. And because I'd been sitting near him, I thought, well, I'll let others be closer, and I went to sit back at the back of the room. And he immediately saw me doing this. He said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm caught midway, you see." He said, "Come back here." And he said, "You sit here." Unfortunately, my bottom was all right. And I sat down at his feet, you see. And then he went on going out back and forth to the other room. And finally he came and sat down. And I thought, well, this is a golden opportunity. I'm so close to him. I think I'll just lean over and touch his feet. So I did that. In fact, I've done it before and I've kissed his feet, but I just touched his feet. And suddenly he gave me this look. And I thought, I've trespassed on his personal space. And then he looked, to me he looked very angry. And he stood up, all 4 foot, whatever he is. He can be huge when he stands above you. And he stood up and he looked down at me, and I'm more or less kneeling and looking up at him. And I thought, he's going to really tell me off. And then he suddenly said, "What is education?" And I thought, good God, I've forgotten. And, I teach counselling skills, and I urge people to have good eye contact with others. And he never took his eyes off me. So I thought, well, I'll look back at you. And so here we are, locked in this whole process. And he begins, like a schoolmaster, to go over it again. You didn't get it first time. And he kept banging me on the head and twisting my ear. And this went, and then I suddenly realized he wasn't speaking, if you like, to all the group that were in the room, but in some way he was speaking through me. And it went on for 5 minutes or more, this just staring at one another. And he was giving out this wonderful teaching. And when he'd finished, he said, "You happy now?" Well, so that's the 0 up here. In memory of John Howie, I would like to quote the foreword I wrote for this book. And I said this: "One of the great blessings of my life was my friendship with John Howie. I write in the past tense because John, having written this book, died suddenly on the evening of the 15th of October, 1988. I was privileged to speak at his funeral and described him as a true mystic. For him, the great mission of his life was to experience the answer to the question, who am I? And now he has passed through the mystery of death. I'm sure his honest endeavour has been rewarded in the clarity of immortal light and love. For many years we had regularly met to discuss the issues that have given rise to this book. There had been a mutual yearning to nourish in our daily lives these seeds of wisdom. And one result of our search was the discovery of Satya Sai Baba, currently living in South India. In his teachings and writings, we found the clearest expression of life's meaning and purpose, a perfect blend of ancient wisdom and the latest discoveries of modern science. And not content with mere intellectual study, both of us travelled to India to meet Sai Baba and assure ourselves that his life is indeed his message. And this conviction motivated John to quote Sai Baba as a living authority. And some readers may find this surprising, and I can only challenge them to study and experience the wisdom of these quotations. And this may evoke a desire to know more about the sower. Baba has said, self-realization
The understanding of one's own basic reality should be